Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Isabel Wong.
And I'm Carain. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. Sell-offs in mainland and local shares deepened today.
Lawmakers cast doubt on whether Hong Kong can pay for massive Lantau reclamation project.
And traffic congestion will remain at cross-harbour tunnels if lawmakers reject toll increase plan, Carain warns. Sell-offs in mainland and local shares deepened today after Wall Street's bloodbath overnight.
The MSCI Asia Pacific Index headed for its worst day since June 2016, with Taiwan among the worst hit in the region.
There was only one direction local and mainland shares could go today: south. The Shanghai Composite Index tumbled more than 5%, closing at its lowest level in 4 years. More than a quarter of stocks on the exchange fell to their 10% daily limit. Locally, the Hang Seng Index closed down 3.5%, falling below the support level of 26,000, and every member of the gauge had declined. Tencent Holdings, the most valuable stock listed in Asia, slid 6.8%, its biggest loss since October 2011. Today's sell-off was due to the carnage in U.S. stocks overnight. The S&P 500 had its sharpest one-day fall since February. The loss on Wall Street wiped out around $850 billion of wealth as technology shares tumbled on fears of slowing demand. The Shanghai equity gauge tumbled more than 20% this year, while the Hong Kong benchmark was down 16% as a trade dispute between the U.S. and China continued to worsen investor sentiment. Meanwhile, Japan's Nikkei fell nearly 3.9%, the steepest daily drop since March. The broader topics lost around $230 billion in market value. Shares in Taiwan were among the region's worst hit, with the broader index losing 6.3%. South Korea's Kospi plunged 4.4%, the biggest loss in nearly 7 years.
Lawmakers have cast doubt on whether Hong Kong could pay the $500 billion bill for the proposed 1,700-hectare Lantau reclamation project.
They accused Chief Executive Carrie Lam of pouring money down the drain at a question-and-answer session at the Legislative Council today. Chief Executive Carrie Lam returned to the Legislative Council this morning to elaborate on her policy address and take questions from lawmakers. Legislators took the opportunity to grill her on the contentious mega reclamation proposal called Lantau Tomorrow Vision. Government sources have refuted that the 1,700-hectare project would cost at least $400 to $500 billion. Some have estimated that the bill could go up to $1 trillion, equal to the city's fiscal reserves. Opponents doubted Hong Kong could pay such a hefty bill. Some accused the chief executive of burning public money.
You talked about 250 initiatives. More than half of them are existing measures. You are slow on making improvements to our livelihood, but then you are going to spend a lot of money. You're going to pour $1 trillion down the drain.
The so-called Lantau Tomorrow Vision will spell trouble because we will not be able to pay up. So many options are available to you, but you have opted for this plan. So what is your objective?
But Lam was defiant and accused lawmakers of scaring people. She told legislators the government was not planning to pay the entire sum for the mega project at once.
If you talk about $500 billion or $1 trillion, you have to spread it across more than a decade's time. Now, in fact, every year we spend over $100 billion on approved public works projects. And then once they're finished, they will be succeeded by another batch of public works projects.
She also lamented the demonization of reclamation. Lam said the city had relied on the construction of man-made land for development and cited the Hong Kong Airport Call program from the 1980s as an example. The Lantau mega project was one of the proposals in the public consultation of the Task Force on Land Supply. But the plan that was proposed, known as the East Lantau Metropolis, stated it would create 1,000 hectares of land. The Lantau Tomorrow Vision project adds an additional 700 hectares. When asked about the 70% increase in the project size on a radio program this morning, Lam said the decision was based on plans by technical staff. She added that she could not remember when she was advised about the change. Carain, Yeung, HKIBC.
Chief Executive Carrie Lam had said that if lawmakers rejected the government's proposal to adjust tolls at the city's three cross-harbour tunnels, traffic congestion would only continue.
But lawmakers from both camps were skeptical of the plan, saying it would have little effect on congestion. Riley Chan reports.
Chief Executive Carrie Lam revealed yesterday that the government was finally planning to tackle traffic congestion at the Eastern Harbour Tunnel and chronic jams at the Cross Harbour Tunnel. During her policy address, Lam said the government would present a bill to the Legislative Council to raise fees on 3 vehicle categories. Private car tolls at both tunnels will be raised to $40, while fees for motorcycles will be increased to $16. Tolls for taxis will also be adjusted. As for the most costly crossing, the Western Harbour Tunnel will have tolls adjusted downward. Private car owners will have to pay $50 instead of $70, while motorcyclists will be charged $20 instead of $25. Speaking on a radio program this morning, Lam said the government has done everything it could to even out the traffic flow between the 3 tunnels. She said if the Legislative Council rejected the plan, the traffic congestion would only persist. But lawmakers across the spectrum expressed concern over the proposal.
This would please nobody. By raising the tolls at Eastern